Bonjour, Kinoué. Bonjour, Ninoué Maganadok. Jesse McCormick, Indigenous. My name is Jesse McCormick. I'm a proud citizen of the Anishinaabe Nation, the United Nation in Canada. I'm a lawyer working in the space where the future of Canada is being built, in the conversations between First Nations, governments, and proponents. This talk is about the confidence we need to have in each other, to safeguard our economy and to secure Canada's independence in a tumultuous world. It's about Indigenous empowerment and the acceleration of economic growth. But most importantly, it is about trust. But first, a story about a bridge that took a long time to cross. I used to have a client in Manitoba, and for years they wrestled with Manitoba and Manitoba Hydro. Until one day when the hydro trucks came, the community members stopped them. And the driver asked, well, which way do I go? They told him, take the bridge. And he said, well, where's the bridge? They said, you haven't built it yet. The bridge was part of the Northern Flood Agreement signed in 1977. It was meant to provide a permanent all-weather road link to the provincial highway network. If Manitoba Hydro was going to flood First Nation lands and disrupt the ecosystems that they relied upon for millennia, they wanted to be able to drive in and out of their community in the summer, winter, spring, and fall. But the Kitchissippi Bridge wasn't constructed until 2002, almost 25 years later. First Nations across Canada have similar stories, and for many, their bridges have not yet been built. We can build major projects in Canada, but first we have to build trust. We have to create a context within which people will be confident in the projects being proposed and in the measures meant to protect their rights and interests. First Nations have to know that those promises will be fulfilled. And it's much more than simply creating economic opportunities. Equity option purchase agreements are not enough. The projects themselves need to be deserving of First Nation support so that leaders can secure the mandates they need so that they can stand shoulder to shoulder to shoulder with governments and proponents to build the infrastructure and major projects that uphold Canadian sovereignty. So if economic opportunity isn't enough, how do we get to yes in a way that is durable and can be celebrated? There are two answers. The first is free, prior, and informed consent, embracing wholeheartedly that scary idea that First Nations might say no, so that we can get to a real yes. The second answer is robust regulatory systems that put First Nations behind the wheel. So for First Nations, a regulatory system is both a safeguard and a point of entry. And I've seen how those processes can shape First Nations perceptions. Days upon days of cross-examination in the Northern Gateway hearings, sitting beside First Nations leaders defending Treaty 8 in the development of Site C. When the Harper government sought to cut back on environmental protections with Bills C-45 and C-38, I joined the Idle No More protests and pushed for political change. When there was a change in government, I had the privilege of advising the Minister of Environment and Climate Change on the development of the Impact Assessment Act, and later defended it before the Supreme Court of Canada as legal counsel to the First Nations Major Projects Coalition. Regulatory processes can be hard. They can reveal conflicts, they can slow things down, but they are part of our comparative advantage. They are the tools we use to ensure that what we build meets the needs of Canadians and protects what matters most. We can't build Canada strong unless we build in a way that deserves the confidence of Canadians. But right now, governments across this country are using the pressure of the moment to open doors to regulatory shortcuts. They're creating pathways around existing requirements to speed things up, while promising to uphold environmental protection and consultation obligations. That is a dangerous game, because it shifts the foundation of confidence from the regulatory system to political promises. And if those promises aren't kept, then the regulatory backbone that keeps our projects credible won't be there to save us. The projects themselves will become the politics, and the momentum will be lost. So if we want to build a more robust, independent Canadian economy, we need to put the confidence of Canadians first and put faith in the systems that First Nations can trust. We talk about partnerships, but is it really a partnership if you can't say no? A yes only means something if it is granted freely. For me, the best tool in our toolbox is First Nation-led impact assessments based on First Nations values. They're already happening across the country. Projects are getting built. First Nations are stepping up, evaluating projects on their own terms and deciding for themselves. In some cases, First Nations will say yes, and in some cases, First Nations will say no. But if we truly want to move faster, we should focus all of our energy on the projects that have earned that yes. If sovereignty and resilience are our goals, and we want to streamline approvals to get projects built faster, then it's time to reframe how we see First Nations participation. Not around the duty to consult and accommodate, but around the idea of consent. Because consultation won't get us where we need to go. When I think about that First Nation in Manitoba and the Kitchissippi Bridge that took so long to build, I think about how important it is for us to work together. It will take much more than concrete and steel to close the gap. Our bridges will be built from trust, consent, and confidence. If we build those first, the rest will stand. If we want to move fast, let's move fast together. Miigwech.